So in part 3 of this video series, I wanted to take some time and discuss some different options for you guys if you're looking to buy your first Tomahawk or just now getting into this. You know, when you're kind of looking at throwing Tomahawks in general, you typically will see like these wooden handle Tomahawks and steel head that's kind of friction fit on here. And you might think that's the best way to go, but I'm gonna give you some alternative options that I think you guys might enjoy to help you make a wise decision in your purchase. So I got into this about 10 years ago, and my very first Tomahawk I bought was this here Sogfast hawk. Now this is a 12-inch hawk, which is about the minimum length I'd recommend going. Anything shorter than that, you're gonna have a hard time estimating rotation because it's gonna spin rather fast. The speed of rotation of the hawk is directly related to the length of the hawk, as well as a few other factors we're gonna get into, but anything shorter than 12 inches and it's going to be really hard to throw. Some people might even find that 12 inches is a little bit too short. Personally, I find it to be the sweet spot for me. I like to be able to throw from a lot of different ranges, and 12 inches allows you to do that very nicely. So this Tomahawk here has got a stainless steel blade, a 420 high carbon steel, if that matters to any of you guys. It's got a nice nylon, glass reinforced nylon handle, which is very durable. You might think plastic's cheap and chintzy, but I'm telling you, I've thrown this hawk tens of thousands of times, literally. And all I've ever had to do is touch the edge up a couple times. Other than that, you know, it's held up great. It's hit this thing every which wrong way but possible. Handle first, which is about the worst, probably one of the worst ways. Something like that, or when it goes over the top of the target and smacks on the handle like that, maybe. Those can definitely put a lot of abuse on this thing, but this thing's held up great. You know, it's got a little bit of wear, a little love on it. Only thing of downside for these right now is they're a little bit hard to come by. I want to say I've paid about $20, $25 for this back in the day, which is a pretty common, even up to about a year ago, but for whatever reason right now, they're a little bit hard to come by. I don't know if there's a high demand for them, if the factory had to shut down. These are made in China, so that might have something to do with it. But they can be a little hard to come by, and you're paying a little bit more than I think you probably should for this. Another option, which I don't personally have and I've never thrown, but I think it'd be a good option, is the Sog Tactical Tomahawk. Sog Tactical Tomahawk is just like this one, looks identical to it, but it's just a little bit larger. It's 15 inches overall length. So if you want something a little longer, that might be a great option for you as well. All right. The next option here is along the same lines, and this here is the Cold Steel Trench Hawk. Now this has a 1055 high carbon steel blade. It doesn't come with the greatest factory edge, and in fact, if you're going to stick into something a little bit harder, that's not end grain like this, but maybe something with a upright grain or a little harder wood, you might have a little bit hard time with a factory edge, so you might want to take some time to work on that edge. I do tend to prefer for throwing a spike on the back. It's a nice option. For competition purposes, I understand, which I've never thrown, but from what I understand, it's not allowed for competition purposes to use the spike on the back for sticking. But when we're talking about fun or for, you know, tactical purposes, if you will, the spike on the back is pretty nice. I like that. These are $30 to $50 range, depending on where you look and what time you can find some sweet deals on them. I got this thing, I think, for about 30 bucks. It comes with a pretty nice little molded sheath, or not really a sheath, but a molded cover here for the blade, which I liked. It's kind of a unique design, but it really does a good job. The problem with these is it's 19 inches overall. Now, I'm certain you can cut that down because it is a solid piece of polymer. It's not glass-filled nylon. It's just a polymer handle. It's very flexible. The downside of this is it's long. It's heavy. Because of its length, it will require a little more distance. So if you don't have a lot of distance to throw something this long, there is obviously ways to speed up, like we discussed in part 2. But if you're just trying to work on throwing from the natural throwing distance of this, I would say in the 15+ foot range for this is pretty natural. That might vary for you. I mean, I can definitely still stick this on one rotation at 20 feet. I find that about 1 foot per inch, and this has got a 19-inch overall length, is about the natural sticking length of the one rotation for me. Anything over that, so like a 12-inch hawk, if I try to throw it from anything over 12 feet, it can be a little bit more challenging on one rotation. Another downside to a hawk of this size is it's heavy, so it's going to wear you out faster. And because of this polymer handle, it's got a lot of flex. It can also have a lot of bounce back. So if you like to throw it hard, or you're not really sure about speed, and you played maybe high school sports or baseball or something, and you like to throw with a lot of force, you could find yourself getting some dangerous bounce back. So that's something to consider. And I'd highly recommend maybe staying away from this as your first hawk. Although, if you kind of got a softer throw and you're confident in it, by all means, give it a try. Now, let's go ahead and discuss this guy here. And this is actually my favorite, and I'll go over why. The main reason why this one's my favorite is because it has such a multi-purpose. Now, this here is the CRKT rune. Much like the Sogfast Hawk, it's 12 inches overall in length. But it's a full tang, which means it's one solid piece of steel. Now, this is an SK5, which is a high carbon steel, and it's very durable. It takes a lot of abuse. Again, much like the Sog here, I've thrown it probably 10,000 plus times. I have 2 of these actually. It's only one of all these that I have multiples of, and it's because I like throwing this thing so much. It throws very naturally for me. Now, with it being a solid tang, it's not going to be as top heavy as some of these other options, which may or may not be a benefit for some of you, but I like it a lot because it's multi-purpose. I like multi-purpose tools here. This being a full tang tomahawk like this, it is actually a breaching tomahawk. It's not really designed per se for throwing, although it works great for that. The high carbon steel, the toughness, the hardness of this overall takes a lot of abuse. These 2 options especially, they really have just held up tremendously well, but this one's definitely going to hold up a whole lot better if you're giving it to hard abuse outside of just throwing it. Again, this thing is also landed on these polymer scales, which are just attached to the, we're sandwiching the piece of high carbon steel in the middle here, but these are glass reinforced nylon scales. And as you all can see, they look almost brand new, even though they have taken what seemingly would be a lot of abuse over the years. Well, actually not years, I haven't owned it that long. I've just thrown it a whole lot, but you know, it's landed at times, it's landed sideways and whatnot. It has a lot more, in my opinion, this has a lot more of a practical, tactical type use, whereas these other ones are more, outside of this one, these other 2 are really just kind of more for fun. This one does have some more purposes. We'll kind of get into that here in a minute. But, you know, this one's great. I think if you're going to go with any one of these and you're okay with, you know, spending just a little bit more, you're going to get a whole lot more. Now, this comes with a great Kydex sheath that snaps in and bottom ejects. I'll probably do a full review on this here someday in the future, but got a great little Kydex sheath that bottom ejects. So, you know, it allows you to carry it on either belt, or you can carry it on a shoulder strap or what have you, or on your backpack, or however you want. It can be used for, you know, breaking out. It's a breaching tomahawk, so it can be used for, you know, breaking out of your house. If you keep this next to your bed and there was a fire and you had to like maybe go through a wall to get to your kids, or go through a wall to get out of the house, this would be a great option for you. You guys probably all remember that those pictures in Katrina, during Hurricane Katrina, people were up on the roofs and they busted holes out of their attics. You know, having something like this just in your room, you know, any one of these would work, but you know, this is what this is designed for. It takes a whole lot of abuse. Throws really well. It's just really natural. Not as top heavy, so you know, it's not as forgiving, but it comes with a pretty good edge on it. So it sticks really well. I mean, I can stick this into anything, whereas a couple of the other ones I have to put a decent edge on them to get them to work. Now, last but certainly not least, let's talk about the old. This is the cold steel trail hawk. It's a very traditional style. You got the friction fit steel head here that just slides up shaft. Now these are very traditional, and there's what you'd use as a competition tomahawk. I wouldn't recommend them, however, for your first until you kind of get used to it. And there's a couple reasons why. First and foremost is it's a friction fit, which means that that head will slide down. And if you hit like this, you might get it and it might be perfectly fit. You might think that's not going to go anywhere. The second this thing hits handle first, and it will, that head's going to slide down. You have to put it back on, and over time that's going to loosen up, and you're going to just be fiddling with it a whole lot. And even over time, it's going to start coming loose even when it lands perfectly like that. And you can see I've actually wrapped this one here with some paracord just to kind of help hold it in place, and that does seem to work some. But I also had to do a little bit of fitting here, carving, sanding on the handle just to get the head to fit properly. Of course, it came with a very rough finish. I've actually treated this with some linseed oil. And it came with a 22-inch overall length handle, which is way too long for a throwing tomahawk, in my opinion, especially for a beginner throwing hawk, especially for something of this size. Maybe with a bigger head on it, it could have some purposes, but something of this size, shorter handle is definitely the way to go. Now, this has 18 inches. You can certainly cut it down more, maybe 16 inches if that would be more preferred for you, but it really seems to stick quite well at 18 inches for me. What else about it? You know, like I was saying, now this one does have a little bit more purpose than these other two, and the fact that it's a hammer pole. So this one really would be a great little camp tool as well. Because it's hammer on the back, you can use it for hammering around your campsite, just general hammering. I wouldn't use it to maybe, I don't know if it's hardened, I had to look that up, but maybe not use it to pound nails per se, or at least not regularly, but you know, it's a great little hawk for campsite uses. It's a good little chopper, especially after you put a little bit of an edge on it. It comes pretty dull from the factory. Most of these cold steel ones actually came pretty dull from the factory. You know, it's just something you're probably going to find yourself fiddling with a lot. Now, some people don't mind that, and that's fine. If that's you, and if you want the traditional, then definitely go this route. But if you just want to get into this, right now for the price, I don't think you can beat the CRKT Rune. You can find these for $40 on Smoky Mountain Knife Works. I'm not associated with them at all. They don't know that I'm making this video right now, but you know, you can find that over there for 40 bucks right now on SmokyMountainKnifeWorks.com. Great little price, great price for a great tool. I think, you know, spend about $45 shipped to your door. These, you're probably going to be paying close to that. About 35 is what I'm seeing them go for online, even as high as 40, where you can find them. And but they're great, well balanced. They do come with a really bad sheath though. It's a little nylon sheath. As a matter of fact, I had to put extra rivets in it because this, just the sharpness of the edge cut right through the sheath when I first got it, and the edge was poking out the sheath, so something to keep in mind. Hope this was informative, helpful to you all. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me hear about some of your favorite throwers. If you got any other recommendations down in the comments below. Hope you all like these videos. I'm going to do another one coming up on a few little accuracy tips I like to do and some games I like to play with these things to make it a lot of fun. So stay tuned and we'll get right to that.